Hey guys, I'm out in the field again, doing another hike, looking for sheds, getting some exercise, so on. And I wanted to stop and kind of film a segment on how to use the Line 1 kit that I sell over on my store. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up, make a basic fire real quick, kind of go over how I'm wearing not just the Line 1 kit, but other items on my person, because your Line 1 gear is more than just what's in that little box. You know, your Line 1 gear is all the gear that you plan to use in case you have to stay out longer than you expect, so that you can take care of your core body temperature and your hydration. So I'm just going to kind of go over what I've got on me. I'm dressed exactly the same as what I wore out here. I've hiked probably 3 miles today. I do have a pack and stuff with me, but for this video I'm just going off of what I'm wearing. Okay guys, so Line 1 gear, it's pretty important. It's not the most exciting, it's not the flashy stuff. And sometimes people don't want to carry it. I don't know if it's just because they think it's a waste. You know, it really is emergency equipment. It's not something that you're going to use very often. So I think sometimes it gets forgotten, or otherwise people just don't want to use it because they say, well, gee, I've never needed it, so why would I bring it? Well, it's kind of like your seat belt or other things. You wear it because you hope you never have to use it. But if you do ever need it, you're going to be really glad you have it. Okay? And so for me, Line 1 gear is about, it's the equipment that I'm carrying on my person, so that if I lose my pack somehow, if I lose all my other equipment, you know, I don't have my bino harness on or nothing, it's just really my clothing is all that I've got, and my pockets and what's in my pockets. Okay? And so the goal there is to try to carry enough items that you can prevent dying of hypothermia, and also hydrate yourself well enough that if you have to rescue yourself, self-rescue they call it, that you can hydrate yourself well enough to do something like that. Okay? And that's part of your planning prior to going out in the field. You know, if something bad happens, who's coming to get you? Do you have anybody? Have you left a plan with anybody? Do you have any communications equipment that you're going to be relying on to somehow communicate to other people that you need help? And so if you don't have that, you're going to have to self-rescue, because the odds that someone's going to come across you in the middle of nowhere pretty slim, right? And so self-rescuing can be you hiking out to a road, a main roadway, and then hopefully somebody comes by and can assist you. It can be you doing various forms of signaling to somehow get some attention. And so you have to have an idea of what you're going to do before the situation, and that can help influence what items you pack or bring with you in your Line 1 gear. But for me, I'm just carrying a kind of a basic Line 1 setup, so that you know, I can protect my own core body temperature from hypothermia, and like I said, hydrate. So real quick, let's talk about clothing selection. You know, you need to select appropriate clothing for your environment. And that means not just wearing a jacket, but wearing the right kind of jacket. Here I'm wearing a Hill People Gear wind cheater. It's a non-insulated jacket, but it blocks wind very well, but it's also very durable. You know, I've been up on this hillside all day, busting through trees and brush and everything, looking for sheds, and this stuff is no worse for wear. Okay, so I like a nice durable outer layer. It's breathable, so if I was to start getting rained on, I'm gonna have to look for some sort of shelter or put something over me to block the rain, because this ain't gonna do it. But inside here, I'm wearing warming layers. I've got a merino wool top, and then this synthetic base, or a synthetic kind of puffy vest. Both of these insulate when they're wet, and they both are hydrophobic, so that the sweat from my body or the moisture from any rain or snow, it's going to dry it out real quick. The heat from my body is actually going to push that moisture out. Okay? And so you want to select some appropriate base layers before you're even out there. You know, some durable pants, preferably, that dry quickly. You know, these aren't waterproof by any means, but should I get wet or go through some tall grass and get them damp, they're going to dry out quick. Same thing, you know, body heat from my legs is going to push that moisture out. Okay. Socks, I'm wearing some wool blend socks. Nothing real crazy, just wool blend hiking socks. But I do have appropriate footwear, right? I've got some 8-inch boots. These are Loa Z8s with Gore-Tex. They're good, cross-country, rough terrain boot. They stabilize my ankle really well. When I've got my pack on, they're very grippy on loose, wet, slick soil and grass. And so they're very good backcountry kind of boot. I think that pretty well covers my clothing. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this jacket off real quick. Talk about kind of the clothing accessories like gloves, for example. And so my gloves that I'm wearing, I like these mechanics gloves. They're cheap enough that I can buy multiple pairs of them, and if I lose one, it's not a big deal. But predominantly why I wear these, they're not the greatest at anything. Really, they're just a good kind of knock around glove, I guess. But these are hand protection first and foremost for me. They're not very warm. These aren't an insulated glove. They're just the normal slip fit kind of mechanics glove. But you got to take care of your hands when you're out in the field. Your hands, as soon as you hurt your hands or you lose function in your hands, you're in trouble, right? And so I carry these mechanics gloves. They always ride in a cargo pocket. Whether I'm wearing these pants or a different kind of pants, I always have pants with cargo pockets out in the field. I don't mess with anything else. And I like a nice big cargo pocket because I like to put things in them. So I've always got my mechanics gloves. These always, when I take them off to do anything around camp, they go right back in the pocket where they came from. Okay, that way I've always got them with me. But not only that, I've also got a set of these synthetic, there's a brand called Truck Country. These are just little thermal gloves, but for as thin and small as they are, they're incredibly warm. And so should I need extra insulation for my hands, I can put those on and then slide those inside my mechanics gloves. And now I've got a decent cold weather option as long as they don't get too wet. Okay, kind of helps preserve the function of my hands should I be out here in cold, wet weather like we're having today. It was snowing this morning when I started hiking, and it's a little breezy, so I wouldn't be surprised if it starts raining later. So my gloves always ride in my right cargo pocket. In my right hip pocket, of course, on my belt I've got my knife. I always carry one of my fixed blade knives. Here today I'm just carrying my brow tine. But in this right cargo pocket, or right hip pocket rather, I've always got a chapstick, my Leatherman, and these little photon lights. Alright, those are always there regardless of what pants I'm wearing. That's a standard layout for me and has been for years, and it works very well. All right, now why carry a Leatherman and a knife? And you carry what you want. I like having a Leatherman multi-tool. It's got pliers. This one has grass in it. A file, knife, screwdrivers, a saw blade, and probably 3/4 of the reason I carry this thing really isn't the knife blade. I'm not too worried about that. I got a knife here. But this saw blade and these pliers are incredibly handy sometimes. And since I'm not carrying any other form of saw, should I need to create a small shelter, I can cut decent size, thumb size or bigger, slightly bigger size sticks with that saw. My belt is my Line 1 belt. This is a prototype. I really should just start making these. I've had this one for 3 years now. And basically what it is a belt with a storage pouch in the back. And I've got enough stuff in there to stay out here for quite a while. It's got navigation, cutting tools, cordage, lots of fire making stuff, water disinfection stuff. So it's a very robust kit even compared to my Line 1 kit that I sell. It's kind of the bigger version of that. So coming around to my left hip pocket is my Suunto MC2. I'm not out here specifically doing land nav. I don't even have a map with me, to be honest. But this is just such a useful tool for navigation, and it doesn't weigh really anything. It weighs 1 ounce. And so to me, between its use for obvious navigation, but also signaling, I just find that I like having it. It's should I need to orient myself, I can quickly do that. You know, I do sell solar compass patches, but on a day like today, there's no sunshine. And so we need another means of discerning our directions, you know, because part of our escape plan, which is part of when you're doing your planning, you need to have an escape route. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm escaping from anybody, that I've been captured and I'm escaping. But in class, I call it an escape azimuth. And basically, it's a direction that I know no matter where I am out here, even if I get totally disoriented, I have no idea where I'm at, it's a azimuth that I can follow, that eventually I'm going to hit a linear terrain feature or a roadway or something where I have communicated to somebody, hey, if I'm not back in a certain amount of time and you don't have comms with me, look for me on this road or look for me on this riverbed, okay? And so right now out in my training area, there's a highway that runs north and south a few miles away. And so I know if I take a direct 270-degree azimuth, I'm going to hit that highway at some point. I don't know exactly where I'm going to hit it, but I'm going to hit it. And anybody looking for me, as long as they're running that route kind of continuously or regularly, we're going to find each other, okay? So that's just a little bit about why I carry a compass, even though some people might not think it's necessary. You know, a lot of people will invest money into the GPS communication things, the Garmin's and things, and those are good tools, don't get me wrong. But they'll invest a bunch of money in that, and more than that, they'll invest their trust that it's always going to work, that it's always going to have signal, and that when they hit that magic button, that somebody's going to actually come get them. If you're out in the middle of a storm, I don't know if the search and rescue is going to want to send a helicopter up in a storm to come look for you. You might be out for a while. And so having the skills and a little bit of equipment on you so that you can, like I said, ensure your survival by maintaining your core body temperature and hydration until they can get to you will be a pretty good idea. It's kind of a stopgap, right? Because last time I checked, I don't know that those Garmin's are fire starters and they can't disinfect water and they can't build you a shelter. So you're going to still have to rely on some skill and knowledge and a little bit of equipment. So anyways, moving down, my left cargo pocket is kind of I carry multiple items in there. For one, this is my Line 1 kit. And I know in the previous video I talked about wrapping the edge with electrical tape. And so here I've done it with fluorescent orange duct tape. Just make it that much better, right? And it's still secured with the Ranger band. And then the Ranger band, I went ahead and taped it down on the back so that when I remove it, it stays attached. I don't have to worry about where I sat my Ranger band if I'm just getting in and out of the kit. So pretty hard to miss that thing, right? So that's my Line 1 kit. And then I've also got some very basic warming layers to go along with the gloves. I've got this merino wool neck gaiter from Kuiu. And this merino wool fabric, I mean, it's not much heavier than a t-shirt, but it's incredibly warm for its weight. And that's why I like it, because I can stuff it in these cargo pockets and it's not a big bulky item, right? I mean, here I've got a beanie and a neck gaiter made out of the same material, and it probably compresses down smaller than a pair of socks. You know, it's just, there's nothing there. And so I've got one of the beanies and a neck gaiter made out of the same material. What else do I got in here? Kind of the other critical item that I think everybody should carry with them is a Mylar space blanket. This is a nice folded one that is 52 by 82 inches, so it's big enough for one person. And so obviously this is going to reflect body heat, but also it's a impermeable layer. You know, I talked about my wind cheater blocking wind really good, but not blocking moisture. This will block moisture, this will block wind as well. And so I can have all my stuff on, put this over the top of me, and I've got that outer shell layer, so to speak, to block wind and water now. And of course it's going to reflect my body heat. then I've got 2 Commando line 550 cords, which is just a 6-foot chunk of 550 cord with a loop tied in the end. And these are just useful for a lot of uses. You know, it's nice to have just a little bit of cordage with. Of course, 550 cord, you can take the guts out of it, and then you've got a bunch of smaller pieces of cordage should you need them. So I like to carry just a couple of these with. They're useful for all sorts of things. If I gather up a bunch of firewood and I want to bundle it together to carry back to my camp, I can do that. I can drag somebody or something with this. I can build other items. Obviously, I can string up shelter materials or use it to secure the top of like a wiki up. So very useful material. Doesn't weigh anything, doesn't take up any room. And that's it. So that's kind of my line 1 gear. I just wanted to break that down. So I'm going to go ahead and get my kit out, put that stuff back in my pockets, and then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start a basic little fire real quick to kind of show how to use the kit to create a fire. Okay guys, so real quick, what I've got started here is just your basic elevator fire lay. You can see these 2 lighter colored sticks and this center one. The center is the elevator. And all I'm going to do, I'll show you how that works here in a second, but I've got a bunch of these juniper needles that I've gathered up that are just nice and dry, crumbly, and they're going to burn real well. So I'm going to go ahead, and I've gathered up a nice big, you know, I'm looking for a nice big fire here. Survival fires are big fires, I was told once upon a time. And so I've got plenty of material here to get this thing going. Now, I would collect, if I was looking for a bigger fire for longer, I would collect more kindling and fuel. But I'm not. I'm just doing a demonstration here. So, okay guys, so I've got a nice pile of tinder here, these nice dry juniper needles that I've gathered up. Then I've got the kindling next to it. And so your tinder, you're looking for, you know, fine, like hair-like material up to about the size of a number 2 pencil lead, about like the twig here that I've got in my hands. Then your kindling is, you know, that number 2 pencil lead, number 2 pencil size, up to, you know, not quite thumb size. And then your fuel is going to be thumb sized, kind of like this piece here, and of course up to like wrist size. And you don't really need anything bigger than that. We're talking survival fires, not campfires. And so you really want to be looking, you know, you don't have, assuming you don't have a big axe or a big saw with you, you're not going to be wanting to try and cut logs like this, right? So really wrist size or so, you know, it really depends on the size of the saw you are carrying. Where I'm doing just my line 1 gear, I've just got my Leatherman saw. So it's probably going to be, you know, thumb up to maybe double thumb sized, right? Just enough that I can get that saw through there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead, grab my kit, and get it opened up. The temps are starting to drop right now, and so it's actually going to feel pretty good to get this fire going. I'm just going to open up my kit. Now, in my personal one, I do carry this mini Bic with cordage. This is not included in the standard kit, but of course you can add one on your own. But I do include these Tinder Quick tabs and this 5/32 inch ferro rod. So I'm going to go over how to use those 2 items today. So since I have, I think, some pretty good tinder, I'm actually going to cut one of these tabs in half, and then I'm going to poke it on the end of one of my kindling sticks. You'll see why here in a second. Oh, there it is, I dropped it. My hands are getting cold because I don't have my gloves on, which is a pretty realistic test. So I'm just going to poke this guy right on the end of this. Just skewer him right on the end. Then you want to fluff the end out nice and fluffy like that so it can grab sparks from the ferro rod easy. I'll go ahead and take this other half, put it back in the bag. Grab my ferro rod. I'm just going to close my kit up, get it away from the fire. Okay, so now I can just take my knife, and I should be able to get this lit up pretty quick. Okay, got that lit. Put my knife away. And I'm just going to stick this up inside all these pine needles. You can see right there it's starting to take off. And the elevator is just a tool for me to lift up to allow more oxygen in so that fire will take off easier, rather than me sitting on the ground trying to blow on it. So now I'm going to add some kindling. And if you start to see it die down a hair when you add material, that's what's nice about that elevator, is you can pick up on it and allow more oxygen into the fire. Yeah, it feels pretty good already. So anyways, I appreciate you guys checking this out. This was just a quick demonstration on how to use the Line 1 kit to start a fire, at least the way I designed it to be used. Of course, there's lots of other fire making materials you could use off the landscape, but I just wanted to give this kind of down and dirty demonstration. Thank you guys for watching.